Welcome to the exciting first MFA reading of the year. Yeah, I'm Johannes Johansson. I'm the director of
Director what?
So the readers today will introduce each other. Before they do that, or before we get started, all right, is that louder or less loud or debilitatingly loud? All right, so I just want to say very quickly before we get going that October 9th, next week, Cecilia, the great Cecilia Vicuña is coming to read the Sandin Memorial reading at the Hesburgh Center for at 7 p.m. And the following week, October 16th, Richard Blanco and Rigoberta Gonzalez will be reading in the McKenna Hall Ballroom.
Yes.
All right, well, I'm excited to hear the first year poets read, and let's get started.
Let's do it.
Hi, good evening. Thanks everyone for coming. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I'm Adriana, and I'm going to introduce the first poet of the night, Daryna Gladun, who is a Daryna, who is a Ukrainian poet, translator, artist, and researcher from Bucha, born in Khmelnytskyi. I should have practiced this. She is the author of 5 poetry collections in Ukrainian,
Yes.
To Chop the Tree, 2017, the winner of Smoloskyp Literary Prize, and Oles Honchar International Ukrainian-German Literary Prize from 2020, named one of the best poetry books of 2020 by PEN Ukraine, Radio War 2022, translated into Polish by Janusz Radwański, and into Montenegrin by Anđela Radovanović. Into German by Anđela Radovanović, The War Doesn't Start Tomorrow 2023, translated into Swedish by Mikael Nydahl.
All right.
Co-author with Lesyk Panasiuk of the poetry collection translated into Polish by Aneta Kamińska. Co-author of children's books about prominent Ukrainian women. She also made it 2018. Her poems and short stories have been translated into dozens of languages and published in numerous Ukrainian and international magazines and anthologies.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. I would like to say that this clumsiness is not a pattern, but at this point it is. I also hate reading my poetry in English because my Ukrainian voice is much slower and, to me, much more pleasant. And right now I'm scratching my ears with this domination of a sound. And I sincerely apologize for what's going on. But I'm happy to be here. I appreciate very much that I was accepted to the program, and it's an honor to be among you all. I learned from everyone. And I will start from the 10th edition of my poem Institute for Historical Review. It was written in 2017 in Ukrainian, like the first version. It was 3 pages long. Now it's 7 pages. It's the 10th edition. It's been going like to and from English language, and it is based on my research and reclaiming the Soviet past of Ukraine. This fantastic code is a part of this reclaiming. For many years in Ukraine, wearing red was a symbol of the solidarity with Soviet Union and like Soviet sentiment, which I do not share. And and I have to say that this poem is very special to me because when I've written it for a dialogue. I was married then, and we would typically read it with my husband. but we're not married now, and now he's drafted to the military because of the war. So I'm standing here, and I'm delaying as much as I can the reading of this poem. But here we go. Institute for Historical Review. 1. GSC Votkинsk Machine Building Plant is known for the production of any word, any phrase, any word, founded in 1762. Pause. Any word, any phrase, was manufacturing steamships, any phrase, steam locomotives, any phrase, railway bridges, any phrase. In 1963, the facility started producing baby carriages. In 1965, car parts. In 1982, compact washing machines fairing, any word, any phrase. In 1998, launched the production of intercontinental ballistic missiles Toledano. In 2006, mass production of the missiles Iskander. In the future, the facility plans to produce any phrase, as well as 2. The archive of random objects found in the factory ruins. Rusted workers' lockers, 4 soggy employee IDs. A board of honor, photos torn, name tags missing. 3 rolls of propaganda posters, hand-drawn. Bottom, polka dotted with mold. Authors unknown. Box with casters and rollers of various sizes. Purpose unknown, as well as any word, any phrase. History robbers slightly change students' textbooks, not more than a word per page every year. Any phrase. 4 words per page of the Constitution. Any phrase. Established the Institute for the Facts Review and Falsification, as well as artists and writers' unions, and a few dozen periodicals, such as Роман Газета, Дружба народов, Всесвіт, Дніпро, Библиотека для чтения, Труд, Известия, Литературная газета, and the Central Television of the USSR and the Old Union Radio, to broadcast the Swan Lake in any case of emergency. Any phrase, any word. Ideological levels of influence. Any phrase. Substitute the history of Ukraine with the history of Malorussia and later Ukrainian SSR. Any word. As a result, speaking of the 20th century, historians talk about the projects of foreign governments on Ukrainian territory. Historians also talk about the Baikal-Amur mainland construction and the Virgin Lands campaign, although Ukraine was not directly involved in it. Any phrase, any word, any phrase. Reproduce distorted memories. Any word. Reprint falsified facts about the number of victims of the Holocaust, the Holodomor, the Red Terror. Any phrase. The intelligentsia stands before Parajanov's film screen to protest the mass arrest. Any phrase. To revolt against police brutality. Any phrase. To free all political prisoners of the regime. Any phrase. In compliance with the classified legislative acts, the Soviet media branded them as traitors, spies, counter-revolutionaries. 4. Warning. The following program contains heterosexual marriage content. The following program contains material that may be disturbing, intended for the audience that is mature or deaf. A woman with a bruised eye and a man with blood on his fist decide where to baptize their newborn baby. Any word, any phrase. 2 years after the signing of the Declaration of Independence of Ukraine, their daughter receives an old-style birth certificate, the property of Soviet Goznak, and the old seal with the old name of the territory. And her baptism certificate says that her godparents solemnly swear to support Daryna in her life path, always be her pillar of support, and do everything so that she grows up an honest consciousness, ardent patriot of her Soviet homeland, a hard-working builder of communism. Signature of Godfather, signature of Godmother. A chance for a new identity was lost by a woman with a bruised eye, smiling. A man in a navy suit with a striped tie, being dead drunk. 5. Lack of verified information about armed conflicts leads to any phrase, anywho, any phrase. Distorted perception of the events and the role of particular individuals, any phrase. The so-called information noise, any phrase. Aiming to manipulate masses, any phrase. Militarization beyond the conflict zone, any phrase. Seeing an enemy in anyone different from, any phrase, any phrase, any phrase. An educational mission of this text is to allow readers access to the most credible biography of name, surname, any phrase. Name, surname was born. Name, surname died. Name, surname is buried in the Kadivka Cemetery number 2. Any phrase, any phrase, any phrase. Long lines of ink argue with the prisoners and letters from labor camps. Feed memory with scraps. Send a handskar. We have tobacco, and I'm not your son anymore. See my wife and kids say, wins are yours, sincerely. 7. In the deciphered interrogation transcripts and classified case files, any word, any phrase, only the interrogator's questions are never censored, any word. Not the interrogator's names, any word. Not the place of the interrogation. Interrogator 1. First name and last name. Name, surname. Interrogator 1. Occupation. Occupation. Interrogator 1. Reason for arrest. Any answer. Pause from 9:42 p.m. to 3:30 a.m. Interrogator 2. While searching your apartment, my colleagues found banned literature. Here is the list. Get acquainted. The list of the banned books is not attached to the file. Interrogator 2. Who do those books belong to? Name, surname. They belong to me, but pages 213 are missing from the file. The remaining 3 pages are entirely censored. The next poem. Wait a minute. Thank you. It made me really uncomfortable, which is perfect for reading the next poem. About my mother. Well, she's not Latvian, but that didn't concern like people in her kindergarten. So I'm not sure if you know about that, but they were celebrating the Bolshevik Revolution like throughout Soviet Union. Children were made to wear the costumes of different republics. So she was Latvian, she's not. But all those children were also of different ethnicities, and they didn't represent their own ethnicities. And actually, this poem was inspired by a photo. My mother was Latvian. We were taught everything but to be beautiful. Our ways of self-expression includes varied only in size. The number of patches and color inserts in 2 short skirts. Look at our photos as kids. Mom gets her old photo album. We'll look through it occasionally to dispel the fog of history. It gets increasingly difficult to recognize my mother in the collective images. The paper feeds slowly, erasing familiar features. Where are you? I pointed a photo with many similar silhouettes of children. Here, look, I'm Latvian. Why? I used to remember. Now I cannot. I think it has something to do with my long hair. Oh. On another holiday in kindergarten, she was Georgian and Uzbek. I remember that. Did you want to be Latvian on that holiday? I don't know. I don't remember. We have discussed this before. However, I always forget that my mother is supposed to look Latvian in the picture. Instead, I always assume she is Ukrainian because she is Ukrainian. with a cardboard crown on her head, a vest, a skirt, and traditional braids. Representatives of the other 13 Soviet socialist republics looked similar. The doll paper raises the differences between nations. The knowledge that my little mother was Latvian, Georgian, and Uzbek for several hours in her life is the only thing left for me. This time, the fog of history absorbed the memory of why my mother was Latvian and what was the name of the holiday exactly. And before, it took the names of most of the children from this photo. And before, it engulfed the country in this photo. The time will come when looking at this photo, Mom will only remember where she is. And the time when looking at this photo, I will remember where my mother was. And the time when someone else looking at this photo will be seeking familiar faces. And the time when this photo will be taken to a museum or sold at the flea market. And the time when the fog of history will observe this photo itself, along with all the memories of the country where my mother was born and raised. The last one we're going to discuss tomorrow. So I'm going to read the first part of it. I think it's funny. It's called Don't Miss USSR 89. I played with the title like Miss USSR because it was like the USSR didn't have Miss competition like beauty pageants at all until after Chernobyl disaster, which was like perestroika. So 1989, 2 years before the Soviet collapse, we have the first junior beauty pageant. It was, well, you'll hear about it. 3 horses are riding through the Soviet Union. The first horse is Mikhail Gorbachev. The second horse, his beloved wife, Raisa. And the third horse is Perestroika.
Yeah.
Together, they pull the sleighs with 35 pageants of Miss USSR 89. Tiny women in heavy dresses, hiding their see-through skin on the sleighs of steel, and the land of steel, steel and steel, the anthem of the Soviet Union in the point of contact. Smiles rented out from the Bolshoi Theater, distributed by the organization committee, worn any time the camera is rolling, with no exceptions. Even the horses wear those human smiles, looking ridiculous. Anything to distract the viewer from the transparency of the model's skin. Underneath the skin, workers of textile factories, food process factory workers, porcelain factory workers, paper and cellulose factory workers, all female, wearing headscarf and apron. Close up. My mother, not yet my mother, teenage Olechka, barely visible behind a pile of fabrics at the industrial overlock class 51. Taut thread, red, almost invisible. My mother's thin fingers, almost transparent, touching the red velvet fabric, thick, unattainable. A massive order from Moscow for the party wives and the beauty pageants. Scraps of the fabric, woven into Olechka's braids, scraps of the red velvet fabric, high from the luminous lamps and the trash bins in the pockets of Olechka's worn gray apron. Panorama. The deafening sound of 4 ranks of overlocks, class 51, red velvet landscape of the Donetsk basin. Anything to distract the viewer from the transparency of the model's skin. Under the skin, coal, oil, gas, gold, diamond mines. Miners, all male, in helmets and underpants at the shift. Naked miners, all male, showering after the shift. Shiny cars on the factory grounds, surrounded by male bodies. Concrete factory, sawmill, iron and steel factory. Occasional female cook, accountant, cleaner. Close up. The right hand of my grandfather, Alexander, in the gantry crane cabin, painted brown, but also rusty, with a 3-inch hole in the floor. Alexander, wearing two rack sweaters on top of one another, underneath the uniform overalls, gray. Holly boots on his gouty feet, Ushanka hat tied under the chin with a piece of jute rope, thick leather gloves missing a finger, everything covered in dust and rust and dust, the anthem of Soviet Union and the point of contact. Panorama. The deafening sound of two parallel gantry cranes simultaneously unloading two cargo trains, two rock-haul chains of the Donetsk basin, mounting to the sky. My grandfather's photo on the factory honor board, wearing a suit and a tie, no rust, no dust, almost human. Anything to distract the viewer from the transparency of the model's skin. Underneath the skin, TV broadcast from Moscow on Channel 1, the same on the Channel 2, military parade, Labor Day parade, parade commemorating the 1917 revolution, glasnost, but also a map of the objects built by Gulag prisoners, Vorkuta, Dudinka, Nakhodka, Ukhta, Volga-Don Channel, the White Sea-Baltic Channel. As the saying goes, those who were telling the anti-Soviet jokes built the left bank of the White Sea-Baltic Channel. The right bank was constructed by those who listened to the anti-Soviet jokes. Transporter and Pechersk highways, Korsk and Siberia railroads, Rybinsk, Volga, Ust-Kamensk hydropower plants, metallurgical facilities, nuclear program objects, silence of those places unequally distributed among the Soviet citizens, resurfaces under the skin of participant number 13. Number 13. Terelhrus an Echa Urpsal from Tallinn. 2 days ago, I was crowned the first supermodel of the Soviet Union. The male showrunner interrupts her. Showrunner, speaking something undistinguishable. Number 13. It's truly a great pleasure for me to welcome you at the first Miss competition in the Soviet Union. Audience applause. As the first winner of the Miss Estonia competition, I present my home country. I live in the world of music. I love nature and kind people of my neighborhood. I wish my competitors to succeed in the pageant, showrunner. I am waiting for her to start speaking in Russian. Number 13 smiles, waves and rejoins the pageant crowd. As the horses Mikhail Gorbachev and his beloved wife Raisa started debating whether it was anti-Soviet propaganda or a goodwill gesture regarding post-Cold War relations with the United States. Horse Perestroika transmits Voice of America. Anything to distract the viewer from the transparency of the model's skin. Underneath the skin, families in new city cars going on vacations, down to the Black Sea. Kitty wakes over the Black Sea singing songs of the fisherwoman Sonia in May, text written in 1942 by Vladimir Agatov, imprisoned in Gulag between 1949 and 1956, to the Azov Sea, muted seagulls over the Crimea Peninsula and one cuckoo bird also muted, their songs classified in 1944 by the Red Army War Tribunal. Everyone and everything under the skin of pageants of Miss USSR 89 is singing a song praising the Soviet Union, country of freedom. The horse Mikhail Gorbachev opens its mouth and says, all Soviet women have to be beautiful. Tiny Soviet women in Gulag, seen through the skin of one of the contestants, number 13, will remember her, catching lice in the hair combs of one another. Beauty catalog glows over them in pink neon light, advertising deficit items. Lace female underpants, 35 rubles. Seamless nylon tights, 10 rubles. Soviet red lipstick, 1 ruble. Imported high-quality lipstick that tastes and smells well, 40 rubles. Lancome lipstick, up to 100 rubles. Warning, comrade, remember, parts 1 and 2 of Article 154 of the USSR Criminal Code. Buy party-approved beauty products. Lies on the hat of one of the Gulag prisoners protest with large banners reading, the average salary in the USSR is 120 rubles a month. A Gulag prisoner earns from 10 to 40% of a free citizen's salary. Troika is pulling slaves with the beauty queens in circles inside the steel dome that used to be a cathedral, closed for renovation between 1975 and 1987, and now features stained glass with biblical stories made of steel. Divine Spirit holds the emblem of the Soviet Union. Massive 15th century frescoes made of steel Christ has the face of Yuri Andropov. Priests and monks wear KGB boots, bayonets grow through the floor, reminding the blades of grass, slaves of steel, and the land of steel, under the sky of steel, steel on steel on steel, the anthem of the Soviet Union in the point of contact. Thank you.
All right.
And I will, it's my honor to present to you the next reader, it's Helen Quah. Helen is a British poet and doctor. Helen, stand up. Show yourself. Doctor. She lived and worked in London for the last 10 years. She's interested in the surreal, political, and genre-shifting poetry of writers such as Kim Hee-sun, Hannu Kapil, and Don Michoy. Her own work has appeared in British publications such as The Rialto, Magma, The Poetry Review. She is a 2023 Eric Gregory Award recipient for her debut chapter of Dog Woman, which was published in June 2022 with outspoken press inspired by the work of Portuguese painter Paulo Rieger. And I want to add something. You don't know that, but yesterday, the four of us, me, Magnificent Helen, Rina, and Ariel, have co-written a poem, which is called Dog, 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 Goose. So, in my introduction, I would like to read that as well. And what was it that made me run, scream into sharp-eyed mother? You have no qualms about stopping traffic, packing at the order, where to hold your curved body. Helen Quah.
Thank you, Daryna, for that amazing reading and for the introduction. I'm feeling slightly homesick this week, I think, because the weather has turned a bit shit. So that was really nice and made me slightly emotional. I'm going to read with some images behind me. See if I can get that. It will work. Yeah, it's like a huge change coming here, and it's been really amazing having everyone be so welcoming. Okay, I'm going to read some poems, having come all the way to Southend, about England to start with. So this is called England in the Dunes. This is a shot from the film Woman in the Dunes, based on the novel, which is a kind of crazy film. And the poem begins with the quote from the book: "Without the threat of punishment, there is no joy in flight." A radio and a mirror swap place easily. In the sky, things that have substance look invisible. Time warps sand, and sand warps wood. You don't have to be alive to tick away. Woman lets wound propagate, fermenting like torn grass above the boundary, where insects lose all meaning. Request for bandage, bandage, bandage. Lock time in the cupboard, and don't think about your old life, the other woman or the retirement money you could have saved, or the man you could have married. Serve up fish with rice instead. Inside the dune, harbour the crystallized light between your thighs. Oh, filthy water, filthy crow, I regret you, simply because I can never leave. These next poems are kind of about ghosts, and I thought I should probably explain one of the medical words in it, which is syrinx, which is like you can maybe make it out, but it's like kind of highlight of white that seemed a cord of black that shouldn't really be there. It's like a cavity of fluid in the spinal cord. And then I looked up the other meanings of the word syrinx, and it turns out syrinx is like a nymph who is chased and turned into some reed, so I thought that was pretty amazing. And I'm trying to think about how medical language is like, not colonized me, but has become part of me, and is also a way to a barrier in some ways, but also interesting language. This is called anterior pain of a yellow body. The ghost elopes, enters the switch, and resurfaces of water around the spinal cord, a syrinx, polite grey organising. Ghost laughs at the inevitability of it, to get the doctors scratching their heads about localising signs, a worrying pain in the girdle. A daughter aches 1,000 times a day in little exploratory bursts before breakfast, on the end of the telephone, on the brink of an escape. Ghost sits with daughter, plaiting her hair into gentle lines, that fall down her back, rest on each shoulder. Ghost ties the end of the hair with its body, wets around a wisp of particles, rearranging their capacity to bundle the hair, cinch it in. Daughter yells at Ghost like a hungry child, forgets her place now, how much Ghost has in its grip. Okay, this is Bizarria.
Yes.
You angel, bright skirt, languishing brown, hoard the beveled edge. Bizarria, Bizarria, enter the ghost into the mainframe, level its head against your own, swing your skirt to make its eyeballs sway inside its pocketless form. Ghostly, dripping, formaldehyde, why does it have to be hated? Angel over there, you've wasted your life on this endless project. To examine me would be a folly. The subtleties of art are lost. Angel, come here, don't leave. Set down your purse. Let me warm and nurse like a city with its gibbous eye. Confront the locus of suspicion. Swat away the yellow porch. Abandon it all for a house in the country. Angel, I have no plans to infect. I will do it tomorrow. Your active violence preparedness training is overdue. Shed me, shed your goo, shed your anatomy on the floor, football field, wreck the rounded sleep. Steep your shoulder, then my shoulder, firm the breaches, echo a sentiment hardier than water. Let go, it's never over, and it's always over. Sanitize wares, changelings, tempests, cheer up your mate on the phone before they've had time for breakfast. Eggs, beans, hash browns, laugh at the break, the line always breaks. Active violence preparedness just sent you a message, 1. You have a message, 1. You have a cycle, 2. You have a prepubescent inkling, 3. You keep the fatal, lose the joke, 4. Hand around the papers, get back the script you started, languish in a slip, join the dots. Okay, so this man is called, his last name is Koebner, and this next poem is called Koebner Phenomenon. And in medicine, there's loads of syndromes and illnesses and processes that are named after people, largely men. And in our clinical handbook, which is called like the cheese and onion because of the colours on the cover, that in every iteration resemble chip, like crisp packet. There is like a whole chapter of like etymological syndromes, which is such a weird thing to do because there's no relation to each disease. They're not related by specialty or anything, just by the fact that in alphabetical order of these men's names usually. So I think that's kind of a bizarre thing to do, and yeah, thinking a lot about names and whose names are kept and held up. And anyway, this is Koebner, and he named this process, which you can see on the right, of basically when someone has an underlying skin condition like psoriasis, they get a scratch or a wound or a surgical wound, the condition kind of comes up into the scar, into the wound, which I found like a really interesting process. So yeah, this is Koebner phenomenon. Pink in the man, in the great name of becoming what's underneath. The wound reveals, no lesson learned, just the body resisting scar, sense of closure, the hidden talk restless beneath. Kernerize my shadow, if you will, the process of lifting up the bottom of a stone, peering at the bugs beneath. Gentle activity. How do they move under the weight? How do they sleep when it takes me so much effort to lift this false symbol of stasis, made by the earth shifting? The sea degranulates to birth into rocks, pebbles. We expect an end when we see stone, but there is only an allergic sense of time rewired. As I said, Kernerize the shadow, which is to say wound, which is to mean a current playing out undertow, exposing itself when it gets hurt. Yeah, I do have a picture. Okay,
Alright.
so we're reading Sisu and her essay. We're going to talk about it tomorrow. This is a silly poem. This is called Sisu, Where Are You? Where is the ebullient, crusting woman who liminal space herself across time, who, as she was in her September, in her revolutions and phantasmical projections, immersed herself in the bog of the past, the back end of customs, to sip or tea, led herself away to the edge of the lake, both arms flung up in the air and swung, who led herself not into the water, but abutted the handsome blue smoke water, who nearly led astray by the wandering goat, the male hand picking at the hem of her dress, so nearly it almost turned into a Morse code of sorrow, a conjugal phallic line of dots and dashes, who hasn't accused herself of creating a monster, only to discard said monster into the asphalt blue of the lake, woefully ashamed of her own strength, in throwing away the time it took to make the monster, to rear it from egg to magazine body, to lop off its long hair into green tides, to give it milk of the right temperature, to rub salts and unguents into its frayed feet, to line its dresses with the right fabrics, anoint its position in the society of monsters, to let it look in the mirror before walking out of the house, to double its shortcomings and make them their own. Well, where is this woman, this sickness to resist death, that she makes trouble by throwing the plastics into the well, tainting the water?
Right.
I don't know why I was so angry, I actually really like that essay. But I will end on the poem that I workshopped, which is called Crapo Poem, How to Decolonize My Forest, which crapo is an old French word for frog, and the first line is from a Bernadette Mayer poem. I was alone in the dream's dressing room trying on coats and capes and dehumidifiers. The land outside croaks and cakes itself in. The dream crawls into the lap of a stranger riding beside you. The residue it leaves like a stolen blanket, marmite on the meninges. I ate for breakfast what the stranger ate for breakfast. I told the first lie at the same time as stranger, as the clock struck a chord. Then I watched stranger get off the stop too soon and the connection broke. Then we're climbing the hill to the cul-de-sac, spleen-shaped harbour, forgotten midriff. I look upon the night in nystagmus, the light ticks off. Consume the whole bright digit, deficit, the yellow monocyte sparking up the node. Inherit my forest, my ass, twin alike in one universe attached to another by string of continents, constituent parts that implies a whole. I used to write the cheat code motherload. Everyone knows how to get more points for free. Don't attach time to this statement lest it will sag and gape under the pressure. A terrific bug. Mother is washing her hair in the bathtub, tells us to get in quick whilst the water is hot. It pricks the toes, then settles, belly sizzle against the sub. Let the language infiltrate under their newborn skirts. Remember, that's how it gets in. The books hit the girls over the heads onto the bathroom floor. Goodbye in the recovery position. To the poet left on red, I stand poised, awaiting a button of green. There goes the self resting on its shins. The river contends us into storage. I eat in my underpants and sing in the shower. The lonely frog brings me frostings to eat in my underpants. I sing to frog, wrap myself in sheets. Tell frog, of course blood is red when it spills, when it coughs up the spill. I'm inside here waiting for you, in the visceral honey of a broken vessel, a blood that drips, a hospital floor that has turned in spillages. A nurse grabs only her bag at the end of day, leaves a fly, a limb, a lymph node, in the bottom of a cup, keeps the shoes for later, out in the present tense. I have the huge pleasure of introducing Rina Shamilov. Rina Shamilov is a poet from Brooklyn, New York, who's excited to leave the city for scenic Indiana.
Oh, yeah.
Her poetry explores self, grief, family, and movement, and she enjoys confronting her fears and pains through words. An English literature and art history student, she has won the Dean David and Sarah Mirsky Memorial Award for Creative Writing, Short Story, and the Sarah T. Hirschfuss Memorial Award for Excellence in English from her undergrad.
Yeah.
Her non-fiction essays have appeared in The Forward, New Voices, and Lilith. She is an editor for Mayday and an MFA candidate at Notre Dame. And I'm happy Rosh Hashanah. I'm so excited to hear you read. Please welcome
Yeah.
Hi.
Hello.
I want to thank the other two poets who came for me. Really incredible and moving, and everything that I have here today in this reading is part and parcel of what I learned in my short time here. So thank you for keeping me inspired constantly. All my friends, all my peers, all my classes, everything is just ongoing and moving and really important to me. So thank you. Yeah. So I guess a little introduction is a lot of my poetry is about body poetics and particularly my mother. And part of why I started writing was because I was the youngest daughter and my parents were significantly older than I am, and I wanted to find a way to remember them, and this is the way that I do it, and in remembering them, I remember to mourn them as well as they grow older. So this is kind of basis in Times Marching Period, which I actually wrote in our first teaching practicum class. So thank you, Johan. Okay. My mother is a broken lamp flung across the room after hazy evenings and undercooked dinners. My mother is a toothbrush used for so long that bristles spread out like rained out clouds in the sky, soft like lint. My mother is a cardboard box, skin soft brown and plump from Papa's hands. My mother is a tooth swelling to get out, begging for release in porcelain toilets. Her fingers are wafers, crumbling and wrinkled with ridges of deep. The blood of her skin tastes sweeter than sugar. My mother is a chair, legs wobbling under sunset, the weight of her body giving out. My mother's legs are blue. My mother is a jump rope, body elastic. She handles her hands in giving bounty. My mother is a jump rope, playing on fields in Soviet Russia, where she is a child again and young enough to believe in hope. Her tongue is a jingle bell, a tune approaching the end of its symphony. My mother's mouth is filled with specks of morning breath and all the years she was forced to keep hidden away. The tags of loose flesh, Russian lullabies. Her body is a body of water and flood. Somewhere in the corners of her skin are the welts she's accrued from over the years, from my father, from sizzling cooking oil, from gray years approaching sunset. My mother is a string of flesh. Her body comes apart like worn cheese. I'm gonna eventually stop introducing it like this, but this is another poem about my mother. This is called Lash and Limb. I am a disbanded particle loose of my mother's body, a foreign satellite expelled from flesh and water. Gut walls pinch my skin to a pulp. My mother's womb, bone builder. I came out hungry of her pale hips, now varicose laced. Mama, I have your stomach and spine. The vertebrae rack up uneven pace. My skin bruises easily like yours. Mama, I have your nose. Mine curves downhill like the Caucasus Mountains. I'm the hill on which your childhood rests, and where the buried bodies of your family fall stiff. Mama, my tongue grows limp from speaking. It moves in static waves. I sense your hunger. Your teeth are frailer than mine. My skin doesn't retain scars in your patterns. Mama, my body is clean. You can't keep me here forever. It is stretching out. I am elastic. I grow out of the shape of your curves and from the scent of your breath, shedding skin to the ground like loose change. So this is a poem that we workshopped in class. This is called Bodies There is an absence to my name, a swollen silence, and underneath all of it, my body is naked. Underneath all of it, my bones are eternity rattling against the fabric of my skin. Underneath my tongue, I carry her name. The letters swell in my gums like a language refusing to die. I wonder how her body would look if she lived. Wonder how my name would speak under other vowels. In the body I carry are her unlived years. In my body is the body of my father's baby sister, dead before the snow settled, dead before her souls could dent the ground. Nalchik soil devours her body. I dilute the language of her name. Her breath swells in my lungs, and I locate her hunger in the seam of my lips. My teeth bite through her memories. My wet thighs threshold through hers, and the many hours her body was left outside swaddled in Russian winter. The heap of dying skin I am named after. I refurbish her frame in my body and expel Rina from my tongue. Formations. Mama held her breath till it turned blue in her mouth, just like her son's when he was born, cradled in death arms, grasping at his purple skin, water in the mouth, tongue all loose from hypoxia, blood not reaching the gums, his limbs gray as an ashtray, Mama's arms pale like porcelain, a fountain of blue blood spurting from her veins and abrasions, and the median were flesh and epidural syringe meat. Her son, the body of a ghost, not yet entering its form. Her son still finding the lines of his body, fumbles letters in his mouth till they clog his breathing. Purple-faced, he juggles them like boughs of fruit. They glide under his tongue. His saliva chases waves over-broken off vowels. He has yet to learn to read. The words all cast out of the mold of his mouth. His skin is darker now, the color of twigs. His breath turns red with age. Somewhere in the shadow, his body is still fading out of blue, warmer now, searching for breath. Letters for a matriarch. You don't have to stay like this, stretching your hands toward your mother's ghosts in this apartment. She stained the bathroom tiles and all that scrubbing marks, your pink fingers. Do these walls trace back to the stale house your father built in Nalchik when you were 8? He always told me that house was as strong as his hands. Your old world still haunts these walls, Mom. Look over there where your grandparents sit, drinking unsweetened tea with fruit jam, watching flies come in through the window. Look here, all your unburned children gathered by my bed. They watch me sleep at night and cool my room with their shadows. Can your body forget holding the children it didn't get to keep? You tell me there were 7, one for each day of the week. In 3 months I'll outgrow your tired hands and I'll leave your Brooklyn home. And maybe you'll die in the stretch of the summer, and maybe your body will ferment in the apartment with all our other ghosts and their relics. Or maybe you'll return to the memories our apartment was too cramped to hold. Who will sit your shiva? Mama, your face is an old wall. How much has it seen in 60 years? Okay, the last one. I want to give a very special thank you to Ollie Peters, who inspired this poem. Yeah, I really love to think about language, and thank you for giving me something to really think about. This is force and throat. I do cuss, and I thrust words into your esophagus. I force syllables to acidic gurgles till my letters swim in bile, come out burnt, and I spit language through the gaps of my teeth. The trophied words drool into the tub through my copper tongue. I twist my luteal nipples, my breasts lump. I howl in water. Nipples soften like foam. I break the bathtub with ribs thinner than water. I perform bodies dimensional tendons. I bury your bone in my body. Your bone limps, then protrudes, pulsifies the bloom. I've decided that it's good to blend spillage and sweat, cradling cells and sweat glands. I evolved beyond my mother's body, but I hold her remains and gush like a spitted out swelling tooth. I keep bones inside my body. I am a womb holder. I am of womb. I am of skin juice, semen, placenta. My bones calcify in utero. My skin waits for burial before beginning its rot. In an instant, you can see the body of my paradise. Sinew, a focal point. My memory is my mistake.
All right.
It is my great, great honor to introduce our last reader this evening, Adriana Toledano. Kolteniuk. Adriana is a writer from Mexico City who spent her formative years in the U.S. and has been a bilingual, bicultural bridge builder since. In the short time I've known you, I can see that that's true. She obtained her degree in English literature from UNAM and then spent 8 years in Chiapas, where she rediscovered her passion for wild nature, community building, and social justice. She considers herself an eco-feminist thinker who creates verbal, effective ecosystems from a queer, neurodivergent, anti-colonial lens.
Yeah.
Adriana is a recipient of the Fulbright Garcia Robles Grant for Mexican citizens to pursue postgraduate studies in the U.S. Also, happy Rosh Hashanah. And your outfits always give.
Yes.
Everyone, Adriana!
Oh, thank you, Rina, for the warmest intro. And thanks, everyone, for being here. Thank you to the program for choosing me. So I'm just going to start, and I might not, you don't have to clap between each poem because my poems sometimes don't really end, and they sometimes transition into each other, so do whatever feels right. Where's the water? Thank you. The accusation is always present. The sun rises with the accusation that demands I justify my existence. It is like the weather that surrounds us, the capitalism that makes the world go round, or the heterosexuality that birthed us. The accusation is in the air I breathe, in the world where I wake up every morning. I write this, and I have carried all these notebooks and scraps of paper and files that fill up megabytes to build a kind of map of the mind and of emotion, a geography of the multiple dis-eases and disorders that piece our existence, so as to not lose myself. Perhaps writing was always this for me, an exercise in anticipated memory. The result is a huge question drowned in a yawn that will make us very itchy. I just want to say right off the bat that I am guilty of everything they accuse me of. Eternal internal judgment. I wonder when I'll finally finish explaining myself, finish justifying why I had to be who I was, be with who I was with, go to the places I went. I always thought I did it for others, but I do it for myself, and then I feel guilty. And I look again for those bits of mirror, because in this moment, it doesn't really matter what happens with them, what they think or feel, what happens in their lives, to redeem myself. But of course, it's so evident if you look at it that way, black letters on white paper, it doesn't work. The harshest critics, so anxious over the emergency, although it's been millennia, it's still an emergency, that the clear paradise has become an uncertain hell, is me, with myself, another of many Cassandras. Every day I become aware again, as if every day someone wound me up again, and memory only served to vary the arrangement of this same formula, of a defense mechanism that is activated while I sleep and threatens my evolution. The order of operations doesn't alter the product I whisper to myself between dreams. Every night I sleep, every night I rant and rave, every night I wake up, or every day I wake up, too sober, too bright in the light, to too much dirty transparency, with a desire to brush my teeth. This next one is metapoetics. Now is the time to write it. I want the writing trance-like ritual to be a sacrament, surrounded by precious islands of being as action verb. But the only thing the writing must be is now. There. That is how I should begin the poem. Not with an opening image or a scene, but with a creeping thought about writing. I can feel the pulse of my writing slowing down with initiation rites, so much mastication of poetry, reading aloud by the lake the first book of Descent of Oles, leaves an after echo. Poetry needs an almost non-discursive pace, at least to do what they seem to want me to do at this place, to get my hands bloody with the wordiness of it. Not to create pretty poems that can be packaged up in the market of political positions and posturing. And I agree. Or am I being naive? And I just can't recognize the dog whistles and talking points and the euphemisms that tell me which niche of the market I've been admitted into, its underground codes and unspoken rules, yet? Or maybe there is something I'm nostalgic for right now, the breathlessness of chasing a meaning, a grander purpose, a didactic aim. Perhaps too the quality of Tzotzil and Celtal voices of the market underneath my more recent nostalgia for Mexico City, my native city, but always a transitional land, which has quickly been replaced since my arrival by the verbose English voices of poets on a page. Anyway, none of this is really what I wanted to write about. To write about the world, I'm such a sucker for an easy pun, and I'm so bad at Kantian purposiveness without an end. But I guess that's what happens when you start off a poem with thoughts about writing. It takes you to a really abstract place. Okay, we're, I guess, like halfway there. So this one is called Narrativas Burlonas. Don't worry, it's just the title in Spanish. I just narrate, I don't mock, I say, appealing to relaying as a form of neutrality. Mocking narratives full of judgment, says my girlfriend. We laugh. I'm going to write this down, I say. But it doesn't sound so good without the context, what I said, I mean, she says. I'll make sure people get it, I reply. A promise no poet can keep. Screenwriting may be a better medium for this kind of scene. The quality of tone and facial expression is important to build the humor and tenderness of how in these simple lines we communicated with candor, sarcastic but not passive-aggressive, engaged in the art of radical acceptance of our funky flaws in a two-way street. I know it's true that I'm always making fun. She knows I do judge, but I know she knows I can say it, because in the end, I judge not like a court judge, but like the therapist who wants you to figure out the magician's trick you play on yourself. I judge with the familiarity of someone who understands and accepts as a precondition for the judging, which somehow erases the judgment, a non-judgmental judgment. She knows I judge her like I judge myself, and in showing her how I can judge her, I show her how I would like her to judge me as well. Judgment as the only way we know how to take care of each other. And mockery as a safe space to pretend we're not so serious about it. Judgment came from mother, mockery from father. La burla. The English word mockery doesn't really do it justice. Thank you. So this next one is just called Notes to Word, and that's it. Does pain generalize or particularize me? Am I less me or more me when I am in pain? I want to take care of you. I won't flinch at your wounds. Only when you feel this can you say you feel love for someone. Poetry is at the core an art of rearranging. I am more interested in the relationship between the poems than in any standalone poem. This poem explains this one, and this one explains this other one. The thoughts will come back to you. It's all one cyclical thought. What wants to be written? Nothing is written or thought in vain. It's all a spot on the map, the great tarantula web. Is it paradoxical to want to cleanse oneself of shame? This isn't a poem, rather, seeds to inject into other poems. Do I have time for 2 more short ones?
Yeah.
Okay, so this next one is called BPD. Yes. Border line is an inability for stability. Is diagnosis the beginning of healing or the beginning of disease? Ah, the bubbly people who say they choose love and hope, when really they fear there is not enough in this world, so they produce a compulsive variety. I am this kind of depressive. And the last one is one that I workshopped in poetry as well. Thank you, everyone who helped. It took me forever to fold the laundry again, but I'm finally doing it now. The poem bursts like the alarm clock of arousal when I'm trying to fall asleep, through me, jolting me awake. I have been listening to the shadows bouncing on the edges of the objects they haunt, and the refrigerator heaving its burdened sigh, looking at clouds shape-shifting and the ceiling fading into smoke leaks from my nostrils. I have been bug girl, smiling at the awkward cricket on my hand, eyes popping, my eyes, his knowing eyes. Cat girl, squeezing out purrs, playing twisty baby, biting out of the blue. Mud girl with a pet spider in her shower of stone, praying to the mantis, seeking communion with the most fertile parts of the soil. Creeping affect also, pushing need away from fear toward release of emotion, pushing desire forward in the cycle to tumble dry. My anxiety takes flight in many precious ways. Most webbed filaments are the fuel of my song. I've been trying to escape the idea of representation, but it's hard when you grow up wanting to please, wanting the person to look, I'm doing it now. I got it right. Yes, you did, I'm so proud of you. On the other hand, in many ways, I don't want to escape. It's actually more important that I finish arriving. The curse of life, the day is perpetually not enough. So we ritualize to make it so. I am no longer that frustrated Odysseus in a Penelope body. I have been initiated by Hestia into the far more enthralling underworld of deep home. The nest, like a spider web full of dust and papers, snapshots caught like flies. Leaving the house is hard. And I didn't take a shower after we flopped down on my bed because I liked the feeling of rubbed, so stagnant. Being rubbed and smoothed down, my points of tension poked and jabbed at with fierce tenderness. And I also like wrapping my legs around you. You, anybody, any woman, man, or they, willing to play vulnerability charades with me in dim lighting, in a space where I feel cozy and safe. I promise you'll feel it too, and you'll forget for a moment that we don't have forever. Just big spoons like horizons that we can melt into.
Thank you all for coming. Feel free to hang around for a while and partake in the snack bar. Let's give one more hand applause.